Your main man's here. We're going to talk about today 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. We're going to talk about ogres as player characters. I couldn't really find much written except from some things that are very clearly fan written about creating an ogre as a player character in Dungeons and Dragons. As soon as I found out about the Ravnica setting being released months before the book ever came out, the game master who hadn't run a Dungeons and Dragons game in a long, long time said, "Oh, and I was talking to him, and he was kind of coming around. I was like, man, you really need to run this. You do a great job with this." And he was like, yeah, okay, we're going to do it. So, and he's like, well, what do you want to play? I said, I want to play an ogre because they have ogres in Ravnica. And there's lots of like typical species that they don't have. They don't have dwarves, halflings, orcs, half orcs, gnomes. I'm not even really sure if you're meant to play a half elf. So that to expand to other races, and with magic cards, they have ogres there. They have Vidalcan, Minotaurs, Merfolk, um, some like mutant types. They have Loxodon, which are like big elephant people. So they have a lot of big, tough humanoid uh, creatures there. So I was like, it's got to be an ogre. I mean, anyone knows me know that's I'm on a shoot as an ogre, and I think you can do a lot with ogres. And I think you want to mix some of the plotting brute in there, but I don't think you need to come at 100% like, I mean, you don't need to be, what was his name from Goonies? Chuck Lunk, something like that. Like the one over the Baby Ruth, that guy. I don't think you need to be that as an ogre. I think you can have an intelligent ogre. I think you have an ogre that has a mind. And I think when you do that, and then you still bring up that sort of ogre philosophy, you can start getting into it, defending it, and expressing and explaining it. And I think when you don't just take the easy way to just write something off, like, oh, they're there, but don't worry about that. Like, no, let's worry about that. Let's think about that. Let's just evolve that into a more fleshed out concept. Let's develop that because I think we could paint an interesting picture with those colors. So right off the bat, and I'm like, okay, ogre, Golgari, and then Golgari magic user type of guy. I don't know because I didn't know how the classes were going to shake out to what it would be if I should be a wizard that had some clericiness or a cleric that had some wizardiness, a sorcerer, a druid. I didn't know how if there was going to be a new class, Golgari, Sporecaster. I didn't know how they were going to statistically address what's in statistically on a magic card and the theme of the magic cards collectively and the Golgari and the Ravnica sets to Dungeons and Dragons rules. I wasn't sure how they were going to do that. So it wound up, it was the Druid class with the Ravnica background, which gave you access to spells like Animate Dead at the 5th level, which I'm only 4th level now, so we started at first. Getting that, and it's been slow. I think we're on like 11 sessions and I'm 4th level, which everyone is 4th level. Um, that's pretty a pretty long time to only get to 4th level, which is good. I mean, I like a nice slow evolution, so we can really capture the steps, not from like, oh, I'm tattooing Luke Skywalker. I'm badass Luke Skywalker. I don't want to go, 2 game sessions and be the man. I want to kind of evolve and develop and have a long period of time to really get the full use out of the character. Um, it's the first time I played a druid in literally over 20 years. So it was interesting learning the 5th edition mechanics on that were interesting. Druid of the Spores, which I think they're in another book, but they're also in the Ravnica book. So that was nice and convenient because I only have 3 books. I got the player's book, the monster book, and the Ravnica setting book. I didn't waste my time buying the DMG. I never find those very useful. There'll be like 1 or 2 things in there, but you could just nowadays you just look that up on the computer if you need to see that couple of things. Um, so what I did for the ogre in making it, I looked around the internet. I found nothing that I found useful. So I took +3 to strength, and he just used a standard array. But I for making like a template for a playable ogre, +3 to strength, movement speed +10, so it's a 40 move. Dark vision is 60 feet, large size, and a natural intimidation. You get the intimidation skill for free, which god of a half orc is, certainly a full ogre should have the intimidation skill at the very least. So that's basically what I did. I think now, having played it for 10, 11 sessions, it's been fine. As playing a druid, not a problem. You might not want to let someone play a fighter or barbarian. Ogre, um, there's obviously people that want to play an ogre because they want to play an ogre because they like an ogre because they like, X, Y, or Z race. They like the challenge, like the psychology, like the mentality, and you really want to help work with players like that because they're doing the right thing. You don't want to cut them off at the knees when they got something hot that they're going to bring you. Um, but you got to be really careful the player who's trying to play an ogre because they just want to be large size. They're like, yeah, I don't know, fuck all this other stuff. I'm finna get my large size on and have extra strength to boot, so I can do even more damage than ever before. Um, so you got to really evaluate the player. You got to evaluate what the player's bringing to you, and you got to kind of use your common sense as a game master. But the statistics I put forward have worked perfectly fine. Um, Ogres are so big in D&D, they're like 10 foot tall now that 10 foot tall. You can't make a medium. You've just missed the whole deal. You got to capture what the thing is, not what it's not. Obviously, there might be a character who, like, oh yeah, I want to play like a stumpy ogre that's really fucked up and little and shit. That's a different deal. But that's not like what you want to make the standard. And that deal is fine. Don't get me wrong, but I found it worked well because a druid is so undervalued in actual combat. They don't have the bonuses of any kind of warrior class. But I think definitely a fighter and a barbarian might be too much. The strength you'd have you might be too pushed, as they say in Magic. So that might be something you need to avoid or kind of go a different way with. They're for a ranger or paladin, they might be slightly more playable, but again, that's still probably a little pushed. Maybe not a paladin, but maybe a paladin because there's kind of an up and a downside there, depending on what you're doing. But I found as an ogre, my character he does a lot of damage, but it's not anything that's absurd. I think I can do more damage than anyone else, and I'm only using a quarterstaff. Anyone else in the group, but only by a little bit. There's we don't have any real fighters in our group. In fact, I don't think any of the characters are fighter types. I don't think we have a single fighter type amongst us. So, you know, I guess that's not really all that big of a deal. Um, which is that is really interesting how groups can go like that. You can have no fighters, or you can have fighters, or all fighters. I've played lots of games where I run like Ravenloft, and everyone's playing a fighter or a thief. I'm like, all right, well, y'all fucked up. Don't get mad at me when you get drained on stats, and that's just a jack to you, bro. Anyway, these are my thoughts on the ogre. Kind of feel free to let me know down in the links below what you think of that. I definitely always be cautious when anyone brings you something. If they're not really looking at it for the right reasons, and there's a large portion of players out there that are just power gaming trash. So you don't want to let them exploit you and ruin things that are special, that are interesting, that are cool for you, that should be cool for you. If you have someone bring you something out of left field that's going to be awesome, you don't want to be tainted by, oh yeah, everything out of left field sucks. Left field is the balls. Let's not even go to left field because left field has some deep and interesting things involved in it. So make sure you're plucking and plundering those out and seizing them for your game enjoyment as you should.